Arc Raiders is in trouble, but not because of its world, its shooting, or its machines. It's struggling because its community is splitting into three very different versions of what the game should or could be, and those visions are drifting farther apart each week. You've got players who want full PvP ambush fantasy, the players who want pure PvE fights against the Arc, and then you've got the middle ground crowd trying to convince everyone that the game can still be both. This isn't the kind of debate a patch can fix. It's an identity crisis, and one that could determine whether Arc Raiders survives long term or collects dust in everyone's gaming library. The PvP players see Arc Raiders through a very specific lens. For them, the soul of an extraction game is the unpredictability. It's about entering every match knowing that other players can take the outcome instantly. You might be mid-loot, healing up after a machine fight, or even on your way to extraction, and suddenly another squad appears and turns everything upside down. That tension is the appeal. In their eyes, the presence of other players is what gives the loot its value. The victory feels better when it isn't guaranteed, and the loss hurts because it means something was truly at stake. From their perspective, being ambushed isn't unfair, it's expected. They believe cautious play is part of the skill curve. If someone is camping an extraction, you're supposed to approach it differently. If you get caught off guard, the lesson is to be more aware next time. And if death feels punishing, that's exactly why extraction loops are addictive in the first place. There's also a genuine thrill for them. Some players genuinely enjoy the rush of turning the tables, surviving an ambush, and finishing a fight with the loot that someone else thought they were about to steal. It's a shot of adrenaline that the PvP crowd argues defines this style of game more than anything the AI could ever provide. To this camp, removing or neutering PvP would mean removing the beating heart of Arc Raiders. Without that human threat, they worry the game becomes predictable, another co-op shooter where every encounter plays out roughly the same way. The PvP-focused players are dealing with a very different reality. They came to Arc Raiders because the machines are impressive, the world is atmospheric, and the co-op experience looks strong. They wanted to fight robots, upgrade gear, and enjoy a challenging but fair PvE loop. The issue is not that PvP exists, it's that too much of the gameplay has become about surviving other players instead of fighting the Arc. For many of them, a typical match involves being ambushed immediately after surviving a big machine fight. Extraction becomes the most stressful part of the run because experienced squads wait for easy pickings. Skill or gear gaps turn encounters into one-sided slaughter rather than competitive fights. The machines, ironically, become the least threatening part of the game. This is where the resentment is forming. The PvE crowd feels like they're playing a PvPvE extraction game that leads much more heavily on the PvP than advertised. And for a community with mixed skill levels, mixed playtime availability, and mixed expectations, this imbalance becomes exhausting. To them, it's not about avoiding challenge, it's about avoiding needless frustration. They want tension from the Arc itself. They want teamwork, near-death moments, clutch escapes, and the satisfaction of overcoming mechanical enemies, not the frustration of losing everything because someone camped behind a rock and waited for them to finish the hard work. This is why Helldivers 2 comes up so often in these conversations. Helldivers is a shining example of a modern co-op game that understands the value of focused PvP. It delivers spectacle, difficulty, teamwork, and a danger without ever forcing players to compete with each other. Players constantly praise how the entire loop is built around fighting overwhelming alien threats together, not worrying whether the squad next to you is about to shoot you in the back. Massive waves of players have stuck with Helldivers 2 because the enemy is always the environment, never each other. It's chaotic, but it's cooperative. And for the PvE players inside Arc Raiders, that's the fantasy they thought they were signing up for, or at least something close to it. Between these two extremes sit a quieter, more increasingly vocal crowd, hybrid players. They genuinely enjoy both sides of Arc Raiders. They like the tension of unpredictable encounters with other humans, but they also want the machine combat to matter. They don't want to remove PvP, and they don't want to isolate PvE. They want the game to support both in a way that doesn't cannibalize one side to feed the other. Their proposals are some of the most balanced and thoughtful the community has put forward, such as a PvP-only starter map, a safe space where new or casual players can learn the basics, build starter gear, and enjoy the Arc fights without immediately being crushed by experienced PvP squads. Having main maps that support both PvE and PvP, but with a clear structure. Zones or time-based phases where PvP becomes more expected, reducing the feeling of unfair surprise. Another big improvement for the game would be gear-based matchmaking. which the devs have already acknowledged is in development, giving players hope that they won't be matched against fully geared veterans right away. In PvPvE maps, the machine should be significantly more dangerous. If you want the higher risk human encounters, you should also face higher risk arc enemies, keeping tension high while preventing the game from developing into player-only hunting grounds. The hybrid players aren't asking for the game to be split in half. They're asking for it to be layered intelligently, but they want new players to feel welcome, veterans to feel challenged, and both communities to feel like they're getting what they came for. This is the part that concerns long-term extraction players the most. When a game like this leans too far in the direction of unstructured PvP, the ecosystem collapses. Casual players leave first, new players stop joining, and the only people left are veterans hunting veterans, which eventually becomes stale and frustrating for even them. The game turns into a hostile niche, a Shark Tank with fewer and fewer fish. Matchmaking slows down, encounters become repetitive, and even the PvP crowd starts complaining that there's no one left to fight. It's a cycle extraction games have fallen into before, and Arc Raiders is showing early warning signs. Without intentional design, human conflict becomes so overwhelming that the rest of the experience disappears. The developers are in a tough position. So far, they haven't committed publicly to a major direction regarding the PvP versus PvE debate. And that silence is making each faction more vocal, because everyone assumes the game could shift away from their preferred playstyle. There have been promising signals that the devs are listening to the player base. They reduced cosmetic shop prices and refunded players, showing that they care about fairness. They confirmed working on gear-based matchmaking, which could massively improve new players. They implemented a duo priority queuing system to allow more fair PvP when you get into a match with a duo. But the big question remains, will Arc Raiders become structured, more fair, and more welcoming? Or will it embrace the chaos and hope players adapt? Because one path grows the player base, the other risks shrinking it. Arc Raiders is full of potential. It has the spectacle, the style, the shooting, the world, and the foundation for something special. But right now, the community is torn between three incompatible fantasies. The developers can't stay silent forever. They need to choose a direction or a design structure that allows all camps to coexist without stepping on each other's experience. So the final question is the one that only the community can answer. Should Arc Raiders evolve to support more PvP and PvE spaces? Or should it stay the same and embrace the chaos that makes extraction games so unpredictable? Whichever path the devs take, the future of Arc Raiders depends on how this community chooses to respond. And right now, all eyes are watching.